Hello everyone, this is Mirdad and this is Tableau 1 assignment, and let's just get started. If you go back to Blackboard under assignment Tableau 1, there are two files, Tableau 1 document and the dataset, Superstore dataset. So let's just go ahead and start downloading the document, and if you open it up, there are some information about the purpose of the assignment, the dataset, instruction of the exercise. So the dataset we're going to use is a Superstore dataset, and we are going to just first go ahead and download the dataset to make sure we know what we're doing with that specific data. All right, so there are lots of different fields, numerical, categorical, the geographical type of variable that are very useful, and there are some subcategories, shipping mode, shipping dates. So all of them are useful if you want to understand what is happening across different regions. So let's just go ahead and close that and understand what is the purpose of this assignment. So basically we're going to do some descriptive analytics because we already have the data. Something has already happened, and we are going to make a better decision for our future. So let's open up Tableau, and because the data was an Excel file, we can just connect to that Excel file, Superstore data. All right, so take a look at the data before you create any visualization, see what is happening, if the data is correctly imported, and it seems okay. The geographic data types are actually identified correctly, the categorical, numerical, and it looks okay. So let's click on the new worksheet, and it's going to be our area for most part. And for any chart, we're going to create a new worksheet. We have the dimensions or categorical, date type variables, and we have measures that are very useful when you're creating charts. And under marks, you can use the ways that we are going to represent the chart. And of course, under the show me, you have access to lots of different charts depending on the data that you have added. And we're going to add the variables to the columns or the rows sections. So it's very important to know what factors are going to be used for any type of visualization. Let's just go back to the instruction. So for the first part, we're going to create a highlight table. So from the dimensions, we are going to drag the segment into the column shelf. So let's just go back and let's see what we are going to bring in for the column shape. So we are going to bring that segment, which is here. Just click on the segment, drag it, and drop it on the column. Boom. And then we are going to bring the category and subcategory under the rows shelf. So again, it's going to be under dimensions, category should be up there. And if you want to select more than one, of course, you can just hold the control button down or the command C on Mac computer. So just both of them, just drag and drop under the rows. Now you can see that for each category, you have the subcategory and a segment. Unfortunately, we don't see the values because right now we don't have any values. So what we are going to do, we are going to bring the profit because that's what matters for us. And it's going to be under the measures, numerical value. So drag the profit. You can just directly drop it under that chart and the highlight table. We see the numbers, but unfortunately it's hard to navigate through the values, numerical values, without having any color. So what we're going to do, again, we're going to use the profit, drop it under the color. Great. Numbers are shown as different colors, and of course you'll see the legend here. If you don't see a legend, the show me is activated. Just uncheck that or just click it one more time until you see the legend. And of course you can change the coloring and all things, but let's just focus on the highlight table. And if you want to make each cell represent that color instead of just the values, which makes it much easier to see, you can just under the marks, instead of automatic, just change it to the square. All right, much better. So you can see right away how the values are different across different regions, across different segments and categories, and how the profit is actually going to be favorable for us. So the last part, we are going to rename the worksheet, make it highlight table. Just double click on that, just change the name, or you can just right click and select rename. I did that by just double click, and you can just select and rename. And you have to also answer this question, is creating another highlight table for the central region. And because we are looking only to the central region, what we can do, this is for all of the regions, and you can bring in the region, put it under the filter, and select only central region instead of all of the regions. All right, so now the profit is only for the central region, so you can actually rename the sheet central region highlight table and apply. Okay, so just double click on the title and renamed it, and then based on that you can answer these questions. So I'm gonna move ahead to the part 2 to create a bar chart. So we are not going to create a bar chart here. We just need to click on the new worksheet, just create an empty worksheet, and we are going to bring the order date, put it under dimension. So where is order date? Is order date here. Just put it under the columns, and we are going to also bring the sales, put it under rows. So sales. So for each year we see an aggregated number of sales, which is good. It tells us a story, but it's not very useful right now. So what we are going to do is to just change the chart, the linear chart. This is the default chart. We are going to change it to the bar chart. So again, under marks, instead of the automatic selection, you select bar chart. Okay, so for each year we have the amount of the summary of the sum of sales. And we are going to also bring the ship mode dimension, because we want to understand how shipping mode is actually influencing the sales. So you select the ship mode, and as soon as you drop it under the color, each shipping mode for each of the year will be displayed in different color. Again, if you don't see the shipping mode, you just need to check the select the show me, just disappear the first class, the second class, the same day, and the standard class. And see, the majority of the sales are coming from the standard class, but again, we have a lot of the differences across different type of sales here. And then if you want to see only the West region, remember the filter is your best friend. Just bring the region, drop it under filters, and only select the West region. And boom, you have only the sales within the West region across different years. And you don't need the other 3 regions. And of course, based on that, you can say how much the proportion of sales has been changing over the years for the Western region. And of course, you need to rename it to something meaningful. And I would call it sales and shipping mode across years, right? So that's what I did select, and of course that's only for the West region, so that makes it more meaningful. And of course you can directly change it from the title here. Part 2 continues, and because it's better to have the labels to kind of show on the bar chart. Otherwise, it's hard to kind of compare some of them together, or very close values. So you can actually easily just bring the label, the show mark label. It just brings the labels onto every segment of that bar chart. So you don't need to do a lot of things. You just need to check the mark labels, show and show anytime you want, and it's going to display the label here. Okay, and then another thing you want to add is a reference line. And what we are going to do, go to the analytics menu, bring that reference line, so select that, drop it under the cell, and for the value of the sales, we want to, instead of the average, we wanted to change it to sum, And for the label, you can change it to value. And for the line, we don't want to include a line to make the chart more crowded. Just select none and hit OK. And boom, you have all of the labels, the sum of the each year sales, as well as the distribution of the sales for different shipping modes. It's very useful. And if you want to change that to something else, you can later on do that. But this is good for this specific part, so we're good right now. And for this part, first we are going to create a new worksheet. We are going to bring the quantity, drag it under the dimensions. Right, moving to part 3, we are going to create a histogram. So let's go back to Tableau, create a new worksheet. Let's bring the quantity, drop it under the columns, and we're going to create a histogram. So you can just click on the show me, and then instead of the column bar chart, you can select histogram, which shows you the distribution of your quantities. And right away you can see you can't have the half number. It's not possible to buy half product, half shirt. So let's just make sure that we have the right value here. So what you can do is to change the way the quantity bins are displayed. So under dimensions, right click on the quantity bins and select edit. And here for the size of the bins, you have to select the whole value. So I'm going to go ahead and change it to 2. And now it's more meaningful. It doesn't have a very small bins, but again, it's very meaningful for the distribution of the values that they have. Okay, so next thing we want to do is to bring the color of the segments to the quantity bins. So let's see, where is the segment? Drag and drop it under the color marks. See, for each of the segment we have the quantity bins. We are also going to bring the quantities to the labels. So you can just hold the control button down and drag and drop the quantities and put it on each segments of the products. Okay. The next thing we wanted to do is to create the percentages instead of the whole values. We want to create percentages. All right, so on the quantity field, on the marks here, just click, and under the quick table calculation, select the percent of total, which gives you the percent of total. All right, but unfortunately that is percent of total across the whole data set, but we want the percent of total within each of these bins. So what you can do is to just click again on more options, and here under the compute using, instead of the table across, select cell. Now it gives you the percentage of each of the segments within that bin, which is very more useful for us. Okay, and now of course you can go ahead and answer this question. Right, so what do you think about the insights you can get for sample Superstore warehouse? So moving ahead to part 4, tree maps. So again, don't forget to name this one. I call it histogram. And new worksheet. We are going to drag the subcategory, put it under the columns. We are also bringing the sales, put it under the rows. Sorry, the way Tableau kind of suggests us to use bar chart, which is not very meaningful. We have too many categories to look at the differences, so we can select the tree map instead of the bar chart. So click on the show me and select tree map. So much better, you'll see that the fonts are the major categories for the sales, for the sum of the sales. Okay, also you can see under the legend how the distribution actually represented by different, the dark color presents the higher value of the sum of the sales. We're also going to bring the shipping mode under the color marks. So where is the shipping mode? If you drop it under the color, see, for each shipping mode we will have a whole color that represent that shipping mode, and within that shipping mode we have, of course, different branches of products. Okay, so we have the subcategory and then we have the shipping mode. So make sure you understand how these are related. And of course we are going to name it tree map of the sales. Okay, so the last portion is to create a box plot. So if you don't know what is the box plot or box and whisker plot, make sure read and understand. So basically we are going to divide the data into 4 segments, and we understand how the distribution of each of the categories are presented. So we are going to bring the discount. So again, new sheet, new worksheet, bring the discount, okay, and drop it under the rows, and segment under the columns, moving backward. Doesn't matter. And we are also going to bring the region dimension for the columns and drop it under the right of the segment. So region dimension, put it right on the segment. So each segment and each region, okay, it has its own summary, the summation of discounts. Very interesting, but we are going to change it in a way that is more useful for us. Okay, we are going to change that to another chart, which is, if you click on the show me, you see that the box whisker is actually activated. So select that. Unfortunately, the region has disappeared, so we have to bring it again. That is what Tableau does. So bring that region, put it back on the right of the columns, and then Tableau has a tendency to aggregate everything to one point, so you can actually go to the analysis menu, uncheck to get aggregate measure. And now for each of the regions, for each type of segments, we have different box whiskers. So definitely see that for the central region, for the consumer, the maximum amount of discount was, if you exclude the outlier, it's almost 60%, which is totally different in the Western region. The maximum amount is around, for the consumer, is around 20%. Another thing we want to be able to change is how to show these values on the box and whisker. Right, so here you see the percentages, but here we are going to see the proportions. So what you can do is to go on the data here, right click, and under the default properties, select the number format, and here you can change any number format you want, but we are interested in the percentages, so we're going to bring in a percentage. So hit OK. We're going to keep 2 decimals, so keep that, and boom, it gives you the percentage of each region within the different segments. And definitely don't forget to save it, and we're going to call it box plot of discounts. And that's all you need to answer the last question. How do you compare these different regions? Of course, you already have different regions, and for the specific consumer segment, you can make those comparisons. Don't forget that the outliers, how they are displayed, and how the different segments are related with the consumer discounts. And finally, after we've done everything, we need to save it. So go to the file and save it as a package workbook, which makes the data and your charts all into one file, and we can call it Tableau 1. And of course, don't forget you can add your name on it and hit save, and that would be it. Thanks so much.